Hello, once again, Niner Faithful, and welcome back to another episode of 49ers Playbook on the channel that's trying to answer the whys and the hows of the game. We're going to hug the cactus this week. It was a rough loss against the Buccaneers, and the loss of Fred Warner is weighing heavily on the entire fan base and over the team. There was a lot of downs from wide receivers and tight ends not doing enough in the run game, offensive line in the pass game, and just the overall lack of production and interceptions thrown by Mac Jones. We're going to look at all that. We're doing this more live drawing because I was gone at the early portion this week and just haven't had time to do all the editing. So we're going to stick with this format this week, and we will be back to our normal format next week. But we're going to look at the defense. There was a lot of issues. We were giving up far too many chunk plays in the passing game, a lot of it having to do with busts and coverage. And we're going to see what are some of these issues. There are some of these ups and downs of young guys learning the system. But we're going to get into all of it. So let's jump to the film and see what happened in the 49ers loss to the Buccaneers. You're watching Johnny Dell's Football Academy. All right, we're going to start out with this interception by Mac Jones. He is trying to make a throw to Kendrick Bourne. So, this is a good job by Todd Bowles, and this is part of what you get with Todd Bowles. He does a great job disguising these blitzes, these pressure packages, and making everybody on the offense work post snap, especially when in the NFL these days you see a lot of coverage adjustment routes. So we're going to have McCaffrey to the top, and you see a corner on him. That's going to reveal this is zone coverage. So you're going to see that they're going to run McCaffrey off deep, and then they're going to run Kendrick Bourne, and he's going to, against a too high defense, he is going to run an out route. Against a single high, he's going to run a choice out China. So he's going to then work back inside. The Buccaneers are showing single safety. Now they are also presenting their four rushing threats with everybody, their defensive backfield up close to the line of scrimmage. Well, right before the snap or right at the snap, you're going to see they do a good job then backing Diaby out. This is a simulated pressure or sim pressure. And so they are going to end up backing Diaby out. That leaves Trent Williams with an unblocked man. They had Levante David walked up, so Jake Brendel has to account for him. And so you occupy the entire left side of the line one-on-one, and you back two of those players out, and you're bringing a 2-on-1 against Colton McKivitz. This is what makes it challenging, is that Mac Jones has to throw this hot. And this isn't a traditional hot, where normally a hot's going to be against a cover zero where you cannot account for everybody. Now he's trying to throw hot into a 7-man coverage, and they're backing out into a 2 zone. So the safety is splitting. You can see Kendrick Bourne, his eyes are not down to the safety, so he's not going to recognize this post-snap rotation by the safety. And this is also bang bang for Mac Jones. He's got to throw it hot, but you're throwing into a 7-man coverage. Your wide receiver does not see the adjustment on this, and so he's going to run this as a choice out China. And you end up getting this corner player, Cloud Zone, is going to squat. And Mac is already in his windup. He's trying to throw, expecting Kendrick Bourne to sit this down. And Kendrick Bourne stops and breaks back inside. And it doesn't get much easier than that for an interception. That is one that is all on Kendrick Bourne. He's got to be aware. You can see from this angle, watch his eyes. They never rise to see the safety and the post-snap change. So he's got to keep aware of that, especially if you see this guy coming on a blitz. You've got to recognize what Todd Bowles will do. You've got to get eyes to the safety, and you've got to pick him up and see what is going on. Just can't have that interception. That's rough. That's hard to start the game out with that, and that obviously puts 7 points up for the Buccaneers, as you're right there. Okay, so now we get the ball back. We are creeping into the red zone. Ball's at the 24. You're on the move. This is going to be 3rd down, and you end up giving a sack here that is so inexcusable. It's hard to kind of wrap your mind around. So first, Dominic Puni is clearly not healthy. His left knee is not holding up for him. He's having a hard time dealing with power rushes from his position. And Jake Brendel has struggled with power for a long time. These guys, this is hard to watch because what the Buccaneers end up doing, they show this heavy pressure look. They're going to end up backing out almost everybody. They back out Diaby, they back out the linebacker. They're going to back out their other defensive end. So they are only rushing with 2 defensive tackles and Levante David. They are coming with a 3-man rush here with only 2 defensive linemen. And the idea is they're trying to get somebody unblocked here by dropping all these guys out. But you end up, Connor Colby's blocking nobody. Jake Brendel and Dominic Pooney are double teaming Vita Vea, and he splits right through both of them. And now Trent did lose his footing here. This area of the field, you can see they put some new sod in here. This area on the field on both sides was really poor quality. I saw a number of guys slip. I saw Malik Mustafa slip. I saw Tatum Bethune slip. You'll see you see Trent Williams lose his footing here. He slips. Saw a number of other guys slip on this as well. So that's what happens with Trent. But these 2 guys, this is just hard to see when you look at it and you go, okay, we should have all day back there. We are trying to play with a check and release with Tonjes. You were trying to do a chip and out with Christian McCaffrey. So you're planning for these pressures, right? You're trying to not have what happened on the pick. And this is the danger in that. Then they only bring 3. And so that makes it harder to stretch these zones when they're dropping 8 guys into coverage. But you cannot hold up here because Dom is eyeing Levante David, doesn't see that they've dropped out the defensive end. So these 2 guys are not on the same page on how they're going to pinch this down. You're going to see here that Trent's foot slips on the turf right there. There's that big gouge out of the turf that happens. I don't put that on Trent. People are saying, Trent has given up all these things, and that's, I don't really put that on him. That's just his foot given way under that terrible turf condition. I mean, look at the gouges in the turf. That's just awful. But these 2 guys, Vita Vea, it's a 3-man rush with 2 defensive tackles and 1 linebacker. Not even he's not even trying. And this is what happens. That's hard to watch. All right, so we come back with another play here, and this is going to be another sim pressure by the Buccaneers, and we end up getting a guy wide, stinking open, but you can't hit it. So what are they doing here? What they're going to do is they're going to take both these defensive tackles, make them act like they're going to rush, and then they're going to drop out. So they're going to act like they're coming and drop out, and then they're going to bring 4 off the outsides. So we actually do have the numbers to pick this up. We're going to keep Luke Farrell in to block. Again, you're trying to make up for this, and you run a clearing route here with Demarcus Robinson. You're running Juwan Jennings on a deep out, and then Christian McCaffrey into the flat. You're doing a flood concept, and they're in a zone. It's going to be wide open. You end up stretching and busting open the zones that you're looking for. You see here, they're going to run these 2 defensive backs off. You're going to get the attention to Christian McCaffrey down in the flats. You're going to have Juwan Jennings break open into the corner. That's what you want. But Luke Farrell is tasked with picking up a defensive back on a blitz. Now, you were brought here, Luke Farrell, as a blocking tight end. They're going to bring this guy off the edge. This isn't like we're asking him to block a defensive end. He is being asked to block a defensive back, a corner, in pass pro. This should be a positive matchup for the offense every single time. Now, there is an issue over here. Colton McKivitz does get tripped. I know somebody posted about him getting blown up on this play. His foot gets trapped behind the Dom's rusher, and he gets planted. But Mac has plenty of room to step up from the other side. If you can make this block, he should be able to step up and deliver a throw. We'll see how wide open Juwan Jennings is breaking here. He should be able to step up here and drop this ball in, and you get an explosive because you're running this guy off. The safety's got to try and climb over it. You're looking at an explosive pass play here, and you end up with a sack and a fumble that then Luke Farrell has to try and recover. So I guess in that sense, he sort of made up for his mistake, but only in the sense he prevented a horrible turnover. But as again, as a play designer, you're going to say we have a win here with Luke Farrell on a corner blitz. You should be able to match this. Mac should be able to step up and deliver this ball, but he can't. And it's a strip sack. Those are the plays that drive you absolutely nuts as a play designer. That should never be happening. All right, so we're going to dive into wide receivers and tight ends in the run game. The offensive line has been much maligned for the lack of production. Some people are blaming Christian McCaffrey, saying he's lost a step. The fact is, if you go back 2 years at the 49ers and we looked at every position group, we would say they are the best run blocking or one of the best run blocking units in the league as far as position groups. Wide receivers, when you looked at Juwan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk together, you said that was the best wide receiver blocking group in the NFL. When you look at tight ends, you say George Kittle and the other guys and Kyle Juszczyk, you would say that is the best run blocking tight end group in the NFL. When you looked at the 49ers offensive line, you would say, you know what? Yeah, they're not as good in pass protection, but they're good in run blocking. Their tackles are phenomenal in it. Colton McKivitz may not be the best pass protector, but he's a very good run blocker. Same with the interior offensive line. You say most of the time they're really good run blockers, not great pass protectors. You can't say that again about any single position group now. There's not one position group that you look at with the 49ers and say they are one of the best run blocking units in the league. And it's weird to me that people look at that and then say, well, Christian McCaffrey has lost a step. Well, no, everybody around him, as far as from the run game perspective, was a massive downgrade. And here's a perfect example. So some of this is on the offensive line, but it's not as much as everybody's putting on them. They're dealing with a lot here when you can't run the ball outside the tackles at all. The 49ers coming into this game were 30th in the league in outside runs or runs outside the tackles. And so what that's causing is these defensive lines are slanting like crazy. We're seeing a lot of slants and they're bringing guys off the edge, or they're slanting and they're bringing an exchange. So that is where a defensive end may slant inside and a linebacker slants outside. So they'll come in and then they'll go out. And that really makes things hard for somebody like Trent Williams who's trying to have a kick out block and somebody crosses his face. And now Colby's got to react. He thinks he's blocking a 4-eye or something, and now he's got to block a defensive end. That's really, really hard for them to do on the fly. So how you start taking advantage of that, if you say, okay, this defensive end's going to slant inside and they're going to exchange this linebacker, scrape him outside, what you then do is you bring a crack block on him. So you pin him inside, you pin the defensive end inside, you go get on the corner, and now you can run down the sideline for an explosive gain. And when you start making explosive gains against their slants like this, they can't do those as often. Because now you can say, okay, well, we're going to keep a defensive end up here and he's going to maintain contain. And so they can crack block on my linebacker all the time. He's going to shoot the gap. And now you're asking Kendrick Bourne to go block a guy who's running through the gap. That becomes much harder for the offense. But now you can then run your wide zone and you can start running between the tackles. So all that to say, the wide receivers and tight ends have got to hold up their end on these outside runs to make life easier for the offensive line. And we're going to see a perfect example of that. So Kendrick Bourne is right here. He's on a crack block on the linebacker. Okay, and they're going to move Juszczyk out, and then he's going to come out and he's going to work to kick out this defensive end. Okay, so they got the end coming up. They're going to come blast this out, which is fantastic. We have Trent and Connor Colby are sealing off the defensive lineman. So now you're going to come and you're going to seal on a crack block with Kendrick Bourne. If you can do that, you've got Christian McCaffrey bursting through this whole one-on-one with a corner. That is a matchup you want. But Kendrick Bourne doesn't even get a hand on this guy and completely whiffs the block. You don't even have to make this a devastating block. One, you have a great angle for that, but you just have to be like a speed bump. Just turn into a speed bump. Die, but die slowly is kind of the thing. Like, have it be a slow death if you're going to lose on this one. He doesn't at all. And now Christian McCaffrey's gone trying to make a cut on this poor turf, and he loses his footing. He's stopping his feet in the backfield. Again, he should be on this corner with this much space to come in or out. That is a matchup you want. This should be a gain down to the 45, to the 50 at minimum. Here's the first down marker. You don't even get there. You get a loss on the play. This is what's making life harder and harder for the offensive line. And you can see Kendrick Bourne understood, like, that was a massive whiff by me. He like, okay, it's great that you recognize that you whiffed on your block, but I'd rather you make your block. It's like one of my coaches used to say when we'd practice, and I remember guys would blow their assignment and he start yelling at him. They'd say, "Sorry, coach." And he said, "I don't want you to be sorry. I want you to not do it again." Nobody cares here, Kendrick Bourne, that you're sorry about this missed block. They want you to not do it again. But this has been a running theme through all of our wide receivers in the run blocking, that he's got to come up in here, attack this linebacker, seal him off. You're going to blast this edge out, and you can run this up here. It should be a big explosive gain. This is not on the offensive line. If I run this back here, and we watch Connor Colby and Trent Williams, and I've been critical of Connor Colby this year. These two guys do a great job. They're going to get that sealed off. Great job by Trent helping Connor. Connor gets his hips flipped around. You're going to seal it. Then Trent's going to work up, pick up the backside linebacker. This is beautiful. This is how you draw it up. You're going to get a crack block. You're going to get a blast out. And then you could even get Juszczyk up on the corner. That's what the idea is. You're going to blast it out and you get one of these guys up on the corner too. But even if you don't, this is the lane you should be having on a corner. But it's not there. And we're going to see Kendrick Bourne down here. There he is, clapping. Very, very frustrating to see these kinds of misses in the run game. Okay, well, it's not just wide receivers. We're going to see here, this is Jake Tonjes. We're going to try and run it off the right edge this time. And same thing. You're going to see this should be a big hole. We're going to see this even better from the end zone, but there should be a massive lane with a ton of daylight right through here. Your corner has to play force, so he's coming way out. Your safety is the only guy, if you get between Christian McCaffrey and the end zone, and Colton McKivitz is going to peel off to help seal off the backside, but Jake Tonjes is getting whooped right here. And it's, again, Christian McCaffrey's got to stop his feet in the backfield, and you only get 2 yards. We're going to see it from the end zone. There's going to be daylight that opens up. And again, Jake Tonjes just has to not lose so badly. And he's playing against a guy that he should be able to block. Okay, we're doing great here. We have 3-on-2 on the edge. Remember, the corner's coming down. He's force. This is a massive lane that is opening at the initial part of this play. So Dom's trying to seal this off. Colton McKivitz is going to peek back. Okay, if I can seal this off, this is a huge lane to get Christian McCaffrey up on this safety. Jake Tonjes has got to keep his head on the inside shoulder, and instead he gets completely whooped. This is frustrating to watch when you see it and you go, they've got to hit these outside runs to keep defenses honest against the run. And it's not just the loaded box, It's how they're playing the defensive line. It's how they're running some of these schemes that they're doing. You should have that wide open, but Jake Ton just whiffs on his block. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about the interception here. So first thing you do is you bring Jake Tonjes. This is the interception that pretty much ends the game. You're bringing Jake Tonjes in motion. No one's traveling. You're going to see this bump over. So that's indicating zone. You got a single safety. Okay. And you got these guys looking like they're trying to show press man, but you know it's not going to be press man right now because you bring Jake Tonjes in motion and no one travels and you just see him bump out. So that's telling you this is going to be a zone coverage. Now we're running a Tony concept. For those of you who watch the channel, you're familiar with this. It's a protection release fade. Now to understand the playbook here, this is an alert. Okay. So this is not in the progression. This is only if, say, they're in cover one or cover three and this corner just squats and this becomes wide open. You peek to it, but you're not going to hold on to it. If it is not glaringly open right at the beginning, you move on. This is not part of the read. It cannot disrupt your normal read. So we have the protection release fade is the alert. Then Jake Tonjes is on a Tony route. So this is a 5-yard out route that can sit down if this corner is squatting. So that's where it wants to go. Jake Tonjes runs this really poorly. He's going to start breaking at 3 yards and roll to about 4.5. He needs to push this vertical more when he does this because he needs to threaten the hook player vertical and allow Mac a little bit more room to throw this ball if he needs to lead him inside. Okay, then we're going to come with an in route, and we're going to come with a second in route. This is in classic terms a double in concept. So the way that this works is you have the alert to the protection release fade. You have a number 1 to Jake Tonjes, number 2 to MVS, and then a number 3 to Kendrick Bourne. So this is an across the field read. It's a way to create a horizontal stretch. You're going to clear out one side, and then you're going to have 1, 2, 3. So the quarterback can drop, read 1 to 2 to 3. And this is one thing that Brock is really good at. So, and Mac has shown that he's pretty good at this. But right at the snap, the other thing to mention here is that we are running, the ball is on where the boundary side is what I'm trying to say. So the Tony is to the boundary side or short side of the field. That's important here. Mac's got to understand that. But right at the snap, you can see Mac's eyes are to the safety, Antoine Winfield, who is flying out. They're dropping into a 2 deep fire zone. They're bringing 5 pressure. And we picked this up great. There's nothing wrong with the way we picked this up. So they're running deep safety and the corners flat footed. Okay. I would be okay with Mac making this throw if you're on the wide side of the field. If the ball is on the other hash, I'm okay with that because this corner or the safety, excuse me, has to have so much farther to travel to go squeeze this protection release fade, this go route on the outside. But Mac he sees the safety drop. He then eyes to the corner. Again, Jake Tonjes needs to push this route a little bit deeper and then break outside. He's got to push Levante David just a little bit more vertical, but he's reading the corner who's flat-footed, and this is where he makes the decision. He says, all right, I'm going to try and hit this honey hole shot, which is an extremely tight throw on the short side of the field because he's not going to be able to put this on a line. He's got to layer this ball over to Juwan Jennings but also try and get it there before the safety closes. That is just way too hard of a throw. If Jake Tonjes, even with this, if he sits this down and Mac leads him back inside, he's probably going to still catch it and fall forward and get the first down. This is 4th and about 5.5. Now, this is also after a false start penalty on Dominic Puni with half a yard to go. So these things don't happen in a vacuum, and I'm not blaming Mac Jones for this entire game. But when you see this, okay, you're squatting here, Levante David's move over, Mac's got to move on, and we've got this backside hook player in a horizontal stretch. There, the guy to the bottom, he's got to go play cloud. He's got to go play outside, especially with Christian McCaffrey coming out here. And so you have a horizontal stretch here that he can work. Even if he decides he wants to make this throw, it's there. He can lead him back inside, fall forward, but he's trying to make this shot to the short side of the field. That's just not going to happen. Look, even if he beats this, if this corner doesn't trail enough, I'm pretty sure Antoine Winfield's going to pick this pass off itself or break it up. I mean, he's there at the point of at the catch point. So this throw never had a chance. I, why you're throwing the alert down the sideline against two zone from the short side of the field? The alert, just nothing about this makes sense to me. I know people were stopping the footage right here because that's when the broadcast showed, and they're like, "Oh, three guys wide open." I don't think Jake Tunge was quite as open as it was. Again, it should have been inside if he was going to make that throw. But you had 2-on-1 to the backside. It was open. You can't make that throw. And if we go back, you can see Kyle Shanahan up here. Keep your eyes on him. I think we all felt this reaction right over there. What are you doing? So that is going to be the offensive issues. Now we're going to flip over and talk about the defensive issues. Okay, so now we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball, and there have just been some serious coverage issues about communication on the defense. People say, well, why don't the 49ers blitz more? They should blitz more. They should blitz more. Well, part of the issue is that when we've been bringing pressure, we haven't been able to cover very well. So Marquis Siegel's coming on a blitz, and we're going to bring a 5-man protection. We're going to be in a 3-deep fire zone, okay? So we're going to bring 3 deep. Now, this is, I say fire zone, but this is actually split field coverage. We're going to man up the weak side, so the 2 receiver side. And then we're going to have a 4-over-3 zone to the backside. So we run these kind of split field coverages all the time. This has been a solid staple, but this is going to be a running theme you're going to see is struggling with some of these split field coverages and how they're going to disperse things. So the Buccaneers bring a receiver in. They're going to run a little vertical stretch here. They're going to run the tight end on a shallow cross and then a high cross from the receiver, and they're going to run the backside off. Okay, so they're clearing this out. They're keeping tight end in a block here, and they're keeping running back into block. So there's only 3 receivers. So here Renardo's manned up. We got Jair Brown shaded to this side. There's first a miscommunication. Upton Stout's trying to point out that the tight end is on a chip and release. Neither of these guys pick him up. I don't know exactly based upon their rules of an attached tight end and on a delayed release of how that's supposed to be dispersed between the two. Neither of them play like it's supposed to be theirs, but neither of them really play like they're supposed to pick up the receiver on the high crosser. So there is deep confusion here as they're running. We've got Tatum Bethune has to pick up the number 3 inside. It should be Upton Stout has to match the number 2. And Jair Brown should be helping on this high crosser because you're manned up on the backside. Instead, he's working over to help on top of Renardo Green's man. Upton Stout is not playing the number 2, and he's just kind of drifting. Okay, well, no one's picking up the tight end. If you're handing him off, who are you handing him off to? Are you handing him off to Jair Brown? Jair Brown's not playing as if you're handing him off to him. Are you handing him off to Diamador Lenore? If you are, you're supposed to go get this tight end. If you're supposed to take him, you're acting as if it's not yours, and Lenore's not going and taking the tight end. This is a serious issue. You have a player completely uncovered with the tight end. So even if Baker doesn't make this throw and that's covered, you have a tight end wide open with a massive amount of grass in front of him. So you have a bust there. Jair Brown's going to take over the streak. Baker's going to make this throw to the high crosser, and it's a little bit behind the guy, and he doesn't make the catch, which is you're just fortunate in that. But that is double bust there. There are some issues happening along the defense. This is not on Tatum Bethune. He did his job. He picked up his man, but you have a coverage bust here. Okay, so now we come out again and they're in a bunch formation. So you're having trouble sorting things out in zone. So now you're going to run straight man, but there is a clear miscommunication among who's got who. They're going to act like Upton Stout and these guys are going to act like this is straight man, except Renardo Green. One thing we do run is called banjo coverage, which is a pattern matching man coverage. So what ends up happening is Renardo Green isn't on necessarily this man. He's on the final number 1 receiver. Upton Stout would be on the final number 2, and Marquis Siegel would be on the final number 3. That they let these guys sort out with these switch releases, and you pick up who ends up coming out of these switch releases. That's how you keep from getting picked and stuff. But if your guys are struggling with some of that, sometimes you just end up saying, well, I want a better matchup, so I'm just going to run straight man. Well, now, okay, so you got the number 2, the initial number 2 is now becoming the final number 1. Upton Stout's sticking with him. Renardo Green's going to end up peeling off who was the initial number 1, is becoming the final number 3. He's going to peel off him, and he's going to end up peeling on to the final number 1. And then the initial number 3 becomes the final number 2, and Marquis Siegel picks him up. So that was his man. I remember Marquis Siegel was on number 3. So he's picking up the number 3, who's the final number 2. Upton Stout was on the initial number 2, and he's picking up the final number 3. Renardo Green was on the initial number 1, and he's picking up the final number 1. So somewhere in here, there's a bust of coverage. You have 2 guys trying to play the number 1. Marquis Siegel's playing the number 2. That was the initial number 3. And so this tells me that's most likely straight man coverage, as Marquis Siegel's trying to work through this traffic. And Upton Stout, they never switched off their guys at all. And Renardo Green's the only one who does. And you end up with a guy wide open. And again, it's a lucky, unfortunate, or fortunate mistake by the Buccaneers that Baker misses him. But you're seeing another bust in coverage. It's not just the times where things go your way. And I mean, this is one of those where pass rush actually did help the coverage a little bit. You end up with a really well-timed stunt on this with pressure, and that forces the bad pass. But you can't bust this. You see these guys are trying to figure out what is going on here. How did this guy end up so wide open? Okay, so another issue that we're having, you have Tatum Bethune is in here instead of Fred Warner. So the short side of the field, or boundary side, the Buccaneers have 3 receivers. So that's a strong side, okay? So like I said, we run a lot of these split field coverages. So what we're doing is the weak side, we're going to end up manning this up. Okay, we're going to man that up, and we're going to bring extra pressure. We're trying to generate more of a pass rush. So you man up the weak side, and then on the backside, same thing. You're doing this 4/3 zone. So you're going to have 2 deep and 2 underneath zones on these that you're working against 3 wide receivers. Well, right before the snap, you're going to see they send the running back in motion. This is going to change the strength. So that means now you need to man up D. Winters on the tight end and Renardo Green on the receiver. And you're going to drop. This is Malik Mustafa. He's going to be a deep over here. You're going to drop deep, and then you're going to end up zoning this off to the backside. The Buccaneers are running this. They're going to run a little hook, a little pull shallow here, or pull concept. So they're going to run a little pull under route here and then run a basic route in. Renardo Green needs to match up man on his receiver, right? Well, he's not recognizing this sudden change of strength. And so Tatum Bethune was going to be matching an in-breaker from the 3 receiver side. That was to the short side of the field. Now that's going to be to the wide side of the field. So as this rolls out now, you can see Tatum Bethune, he shades across over. You can see here, D. Winters, he's not playing with the vision technique that they like to use when in zone. He's manning up on the tight end. And Renardo, though, is dropping in a zone drop because he's expecting this inbreaker to run into Tatum Bethune because he didn't recognize the change of strength. Well, that's not what's going on. He's supposed to be in man coverage on this. And instead, he is way off. This is clearly he's playing a zone drop. And you just leave this wide open for Baker Mayfield to Emeka Egbuka, who then is able to get even more yards after the catch because he's so wide open. And you can see Renardo Green was clearly confused on it, was not sure of what's happening. That is lack of communication from the defense. We're going to see it from the end zone. This just opens up. It's far too open. You know, Baker's been playing well, but you can't make it this easy. Okay, so we're going to see the same issue pop up again. We have 3 receivers to the short side of the field. So the strength is to this side. They are going to bring a man in motion. We're again running a split field coverage. So this is going to be like a cover 2 on this side where you're going to have that zoned off. And then we're going to cross key Jair Brown to the 3 receiver side. And again, we are going to man up the back side. This is how it's got to go. Normally, when this change of strength happens, we're going to swap D Winters and Upton Stout so that they don't swap their assigned duties. They just swap their alignment. And here they start going, and D Winters is going to tell them, no, because they could snap this at any time and have a run play, and we need to stay in our spots. Okay, so Upton Stout recognizes that. Well, he would have been in a zone drop. Now he's got to match the running back in man coverage, and he just doesn't. So here you can see Renardo Green is matching in man on this. You can see Jair Brown is turning to cross key. We're zoning up the 3 receiver side, and they're just going to leak a running back out into the flat, and we don't cover it at all. Upton Stout has got to match this route, and he doesn't. Again, the change of strength gets him confused. We're manning up. He should be manned up, but I mean, this is just too easy. You can't. Baker Mayfield is playing at a high level, but you cannot give busted assignments over and over again and not expect them to not get chunk plays. They're getting chunk plays off of busts in coverage. This should not be happening. And it wasn't just this game. I know everybody will say, well, you know, that's when Fred Warner goes out. We were having some of these issues when Fred Warner was there against the Rams. We had 4 or 5 busts in coverage against the Rams. This is far too high of a rate of busts in coverage. And some of this is young guys learning this new system, and it is a complex system. But they've got to get in and figure these things out. This is part of the challenge of when you have so many young guys playing. Okay, so here we're back again. And so, you know, I feel bad for Robert Saleh in all of this. You're trying so hard to generate more pressure, to help out your coverage units. You're trying to put your players in a positive position to succeed, not just asking them to line up and play man coverage, especially against a guy like Emeka Egbuka and a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. And so you're bringing this heavy pressure look, right? And so we're going to bring up Upton Stout on a blitz this time. Now, normally, like I've said again, we're running split field, so you have the weak side to the short side of the field. So we're going to man this up. You're going to have D Winters out here is going to be on this. Somebody's going to pick him up if the running back goes out. And you have Tatum Bethune is here over the line. He would peel out and look to pick up the final number 3. You're going to zone cross key. You're going to zone and you're going to zone. So you can keep 4 over 3 to that side. You man up the back side. Okay. Well, again, here, the Buccaneers, all they do is they bring a man in motion and they change the strength. This is where Tatum Bethune has to communicate that across the board. Change of strength, strong left, strong left, strong left is what they're going to call out, okay? And everybody has to communicate that. Strong left, strong left, strong left. Everybody repeats that. So we make sure everybody knows that the strength has changed somehow in there because again, Diamador Lenore is keyed in on his guy. Neither D Winters nor Tatum Bethune let him know that there is a man in motion. He's got to keep it on his guy. He's in man coverage, so he's taught you keep your eyes straight on this guy's belt buckle, and you follow them through the snap. Okay, you don't take your eyes off of them. You have to rely on these guys communicating motions and possible bunch sets in there. So they should be communicating that. That doesn't happen. So you end up man coverage on this side. Tatum Bethune is going to drop into his zone. You're going to see Malik Mustafa is going to stay on this side. He has to cover anything over the middle. Okay. Diamador Lenore should be dropping back in here, but nobody communicated that to him. And D Winters is coming and playing an outside zone to work on the running back. We're manning up on the weak side. We get Upton Stout coming free on a blitz. He is untouched on this blitz. But this was not communicated to Lenore to be out here. And so you have a receiver running free down the sideline. And that's just too easy. These are pretty simple things as far as what they're going to be going over. Communicate, change of strength, linebackers, young guys. Like this is really frustrating because these are things that it's not like this is the first time they're being asked to do this. They're asked to do this in high school. They're asked to do this in college. It's just like something about being overwhelmed in this moment, or somebody just everybody looking to somebody else to make these calls and make these changes and not sure that it's supposed to be them. Because again, you get Upton Stout coming free off the edge. And we say, well, they're not getting enough pressure. Well, you get that, which was a bogus roughing the passer call, but you get that and you just have a blatant bust in coverage. It is so frustrating to watch things like this. The coverage, for me, I understand people want to see more juice from the pass rush. The coverage has much more to clean up than the pass rush, in my opinion. Okay, so now we're going to get to the big touchdown given up by one Marquis Siegel. Now, they were rotating their safeties around, so this obviously didn't help Siegel in this. But look, the Buccaneers are trying to go after something because they saw it the week before against the Rams, and it wasn't necessarily on Marquis Siegel. Okay, I don't want to make it seem like they were game planning this specific play for Marquis Siegel. I think they were game planning this on the 49ers because we struggled with this against the Rams. And so what they're going to do is that they're going to run a post here, and then they're going to run a deep in route or dig route on the opposite side. What the Rams did is they ran a deep read route. So it was a route that would sit down, and our safeties on the backside were jumping that. And then they were hitting these high crossers behind it. Because what we require in most of our coverages is that either the corner has to come out and climb and pick up the trash crossing if we're in cover 3, or if we're in cover 6 or cover 4, it's got to be the backside safety or corner as well, depending on what it's going to be. And one of the times it was Jason Pinnock in cover 6. He jumped the underneath and it went over. And I mean, now Marquis Siegel needed to play it a little bit tighter, but that was mainly on the backside guy. Another one, it was Diamador Lenore. He didn't climb his as his guy sat and go pick up the high crosser. Well, here it's going to be Marquis Siegel's his opportunity to do the same thing. So they're going to run this receiver on a deep in route, and Baker's going to give it a hard pump. So there he goes. There, Baker gives it a hard pump. Why Marquis Siegel jumps on this, I have no idea. We're in cover 3 buzz. Okay, so he's shaded to this side. We have a deep third corner. Jair Brown's in a hook that he is looking to match any crossers coming across the field. That's his role. Renardo Green's going to be in a deep third back here. We're going to have Upton Stout out in the flat. And then you have D Winters is here on a curl flat. So why Marquis Siegel decides that when you have Tatum Bethune is sitting here and this throw's got to be out to the middle of the hash where Jair Brown is sitting on, why Marquis Siegel decides he should flat foot this to drive on that is hard to wrap my mind around. He's got to look to turn and pick this up. That's his man, but he's going to bite on this pump fake. You're going to watch Baker pump, and there's Marquise Siegel. He flat foots just enough, and Baker's going to rip this. And that is just, I mean, this is great catch. Wasn't the most, there wasn't a lot of room for error, but you can't. Why are you flat footing at all? That route was double covered underneath. You just can't have these kind of busts. Okay, so I know many of us are familiar with the drama that was there between Kyle Shanahan and Juwan Jennings before the half, and I think there is some evidence here on the film of what exactly happened. Now, this obviously is my opinion, but I will present the evidence, and you guys can make your decision on it. Just want to show what I noticed from the film. So this is right at the start of the 2-minute drill, and this becomes a huge miss in this game. So we're going to run Demarcus Robinson on a deep out. Now, understand, Demarcus Robinson got about 6 snaps here in this 2-minute drill. He only had 13 snaps total. So he was clearly not a big part of the game plan. And I really doubt that he was the guy that was supposed to be in there during the 2-minute drill. And we're going to see that this is a really well-timed call by Shanahan. We're going to get Demarcus Robinson on this deep out wide open. We're going to run this off. They're going to have eyes to McCaffrey. And Mac delivers a great ball, and it's dropped. Now watch. This is Kyle Shanahan on the sideline. Watch his reaction. You're going to see him initially upset, and then clearly looking around, wondering what is going on. As you can see it, he's got his hands out. You're going to see him look down this way down the sideline. He's clearly a little confused, looking around. Where is that's a where is kind of look. We're going to see it from the end zone because this drop happens right in front of Kyle Shanahan. So here's the throw. Here's the drop. Now Kyle is at the other side of the 50-yard line. Okay. There he is. And he's looking around. Where is and he's looking around. Okay. So next play is happening. Understand what this means for Kyle Shanahan, because I'm going to show you. This is Kyle right here. That's his sneakers. He was down here. So he was looking around, walked all the way down here, and he has approached one Juwan Jennings. That is a number 15. It's a little easier for me to see on my screen than it probably is for yours. But he is walking straight up to Juwan Jennings, and you're going to see him point out onto the field, say something to him, and point out on the field. He's not even concerned right now about what is happening on the field. He was so concerned about walking all the way down here and talking to Juwan Jennings and then pointing out on the field. Juwan Jennings was supposed to be out on the field on that first play. He was supposed to be out there for the 2-minute drill. And this is why when Juwan was asked about this after the game, he said, ask Kyle about that, because he was trying to get Kyle to toss Demarcus Robinson under the bus if he was going to be mad at him. And in there, then offered up that he's dealing with 5. He said broken ribs. It's later being corrected as bruised ribs, and that he's got a shoulder issue and an ankle sprain. Clearly, Juwan Jennings was ailing and didn't go out there. Kyle was expecting him to be out there. There's a big drop in the role that he's supposed to be in. This cost the team points, because this really ended up taking a bunch of seconds off the clock and a huge gain that could have been there. Kyle was clearly upset that Juwan Jennings was not on the field, went out there, approached him about it. Juwan is trying to play through injuries. He gets really upset about the idea of a coach being mad at him for not going out on the field. That's what's going on there. So I don't know if that helps elucidate what's kind of happening in that situation, but that's what I think. And there's the evidence that I have to support that of what happened out there. But hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, thank you to all of our members of JFA49.com. You are the ones who made videos like this possible. This was a shortened week, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to the full edited version like you normally see, but we will be back at that next week. If you would like to support the channel and be a part of this, as many of you know, videos like this, even in this format, the NFL is going to end up flagging it and making it not monetized. So it is the direct support of people just like you through jfa49.com that your direct support has made all the work that goes into these possible, or members of the Patreon. There are links for that below. Patreon has the two tiers, one at $2 a month, one at $5 a month. The members website has 3 tiers, one at 5, one at 10, and one at $15 a month for whatever support level you would like to be a part of. I really, really appreciate it. It really does make these videos possible. And we need about 40 more members to offset what the NFL has made almost impossible to monetize this year. So, but thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, like I said. But until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, go Niners.